you were talking about exit polls, and I feel like the Hillary Clinton assassins got you.
I do not know what the fuck just happened. I don't know if you noticed, Discord is not the best app.
It's not. It's more secure than Skype, though, for communications. Even though
It
you
is,
are
but
right.
the thing is, I don't understand why, like, the most elementary thing that the internet was supposed to do, which was create fucking seamless fucking video chat calls with anyone in the world at any time, is one of the worst things that the internet can fucking do.
I have no answer to that at all.
It's like literally like in all the fucking sci-fi movies before the fucking internet, like that was the crazy fucking thing the internet was supposed to do. And it actually fucking sucks to use any fucking service to make fucking voice calls or video calls.
This is true.
I guess I'm just saying that's like everyone's fault but me. You know, it wasn't my fault. I'm just doing normal shit over here.
Okay, actually, that's a good segue into distribution of blame here. So, what do you think about the results tonight so far?
Obviously, it's a bad night for Bernie Sanders, and I don't want to sugarcoat it. He was hoping for something that would change, that would blunt Joe Biden's momentum coming out of Super Tuesday, and he didn't get it. In Michigan, he underperformed where he was in 2016 by about 10 points, and that was a state that he won unexpectedly against Hillary Clinton and honestly kept his campaign alive. I don't
Yeah.
think that's really enough to spin these results. Also, he might win. Polls just closed in Washington and Idaho. He might win both those states, but Washington is a state where everyone mails in their ballot, meaning that they're probably not going to have official results for a few days. Right now, obviously, it's a race to get the most delegates, but in terms of changing the texture of the race, which is the priority for Bernie Sanders, like in terms of triage, that's the one thing he's got to do. He needs to show something to prove that he's still in the race. And earlier tonight, you know, I saw people like Jim Clyburn and Thomas Friedman say, you know, it's how is Bernie going to leave the race? It's about time that he did that. And the message that I want to give your audience is that Bernie Sanders should absolutely 100% not leave this race, that it is still a fight, and it's a fight that's going to go to all 50 states.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
the majority of the country has not had a chance to vote. The majority of delegates have not been allocated. Anyone who wants to tell you that, well, the people have spoken, you know, enough people have voted and they picked someone, that's not someone from Pennsylvania or New York or Connecticut or New Jersey or Ohio or Illinois or Louisiana or Arizona or New Mexico or any of these states.
Yeah.
And the argument to be made is that Bernie Sanders obviously got a delegate lead from the first 50% of states that have voted so far. He can get a fucking lead in the next 50% of states. I'm sorry, Joe Biden got the fucking first 50%. The point is, it's obviously, but again, I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. This is halftime. And Bernie Sanders is down. He might win North Dakota, which would be unexpected. He might win Idaho, which I suspect he will. And he very much so might win Washington State. But the current state of the race has only existed for 7 days, where it's an actual heads-up race between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. And in those 7 days, how many times has Joe Biden said or done something to suggest that he is not fit to be the Democratic nominee?
Yeah. Absolutely. The problem that I foresee here, not to be a doom naysayer and be the doom and gloom guy, but I try to play the Sam Cedar part on my show at the very least. Not as much of a liberal as he is, but
as the cool guy who fucks a lot. Yeah.
yeah, of
I
course,
understand.
exactly. No, yeah. But the thing the problem I see here is that the same problems that existed in the past 7 days, as far as overwhelming media coverage for Joe Biden to the tune of $100 million in earned media, that was
Or me.
almost entirely positive in a matter of 72 hours, that elevated him in Super Tuesday in an incredibly significant fashion. From all of that to the way that they even covered the finger wagging incident against the union member who wanted to hold on to his AR-15, or his AR-14 as Joe Biden called it.
Yeah, he wanted to fuck his the assault rifle 15, as it's
Yeah,
known as.
yeah. So the media is running defense for Joe Biden. And
Yes.
my fear is that that won't change, that they know that they have the power to float a candidate, and they will continue to abuse that for the one that aligns with their material interests, or at the very least, the material interests of their umbrella corporations, their holding firms,
Sure.
and the lobbyists that go on their panels. So the fear I have is, even if Joe Biden keeps flailing, and even if he keeps flubbing, and even if he keeps putting out gaffes, I worry that the media, especially liberal media, will consider this just like Fox News, and humanize him and talk like it's actually great, and he does not have dementia, and that the left is being aggressive by staying in the race and trying to win. And how disgusting is that? And I
I
don't
have
know
a
if
few
it'll have a
responses to
significant
that. I have
impact.
a few responses to that. And the first one is, we always knew from the beginning of this fucking race, if you were a Bernie Sanders supporter a year ago, as I was, that the media is arrayed against us. Like, that's it. And right now, I watched. Don't ask me why. I watched MSNBC earlier today,
Oh, I
and
do it every day.
I would estimate about 85% of the coverage was about the COVID-19 pandemic, and not about this series of primaries that are very important. I think that a lot of individual members of the media, producers, presenters, they want the race to be done. And as well, of course, their bosses obviously prefer Joe Biden. That is a handicap that we will always have to deal with. But the other thing is, if the race continues, as it will, Joe Biden actually, at some point, has to appear in public, does he not?
Oh
He
yeah.
has to actually fucking show his face in public and speak. And that is the one thing that tends to trip him up. Regarding the pandemic, looking at exit polls, most voters think that Joe Biden is a steadier hand on the wheel than Bernie Sanders. They like Bernie Sanders, but the thing that Bernie is fighting against, and it is an uphill battle, is the notion that Joe Biden is, one, a decent leader, and two, that he'll beat Donald Trump in November.
Yeah.
And that's an assumption. These are assumptions that have not been created through positive messaging. Everyone just assumes these things. That's exactly why Joe Biden's support is softer than anyone thinks, because nobody actually knows what Joe Biden stands for. People like him because he seems likable, and people think he can win because he won twice as vice president, as a barnacle clinging to Barack Obama.
Yeah.
People think he's a leader because, I don't know, he was vice president, something like that. He was on TV. But nobody, not only has the case not been made for any of these things, but the case has not been made against these things. And in a race where it was multiple people, it was easier for Joe Biden to kind of sneak through as he did. But when people actually evaluate Joe Biden's record, when they meet the guy, they think, who the fuck is this? Joe Biden got fourth place in the Iowa caucus. Actually, no, wait. No, fuck. He might have gotten fourth place. He got fourth place in the Iowa caucus.
Yeah.
He got fifth place in the New Hampshire primary. These were states that he contested, that he campaigned in, that he did town halls, that he met people. I went to a fucking Joe Biden town hall in Iowa, and he sounded like shit.
Yeah, he did a last second dip out on New Hampshire because he wanted to act like they weren't campaigning that hard in New Hampshire, and they actually were.
Which is exactly why the strategy from Team Biden is we're gonna hide him.
Yeah, I mean, but that was the strategy. That was the strategy in November too. Like that's been the strategy when his top campaign contributors were starting to leave the Biden campaign and going to like Pete Buttigieg and all the other moderate candidates to find like whoever the kingmaker, whoever the actual like moderate Voltron was going to be. The problem is now that person is Joe Biden, and they are able to elevate him, as we have seen. And
yeah.
I still worry that even if the debate is horrible, and I do think that a debate could completely change this entire race, and that's why you hear people.
It did for Michael Bloomberg.
Yeah, exactly. It did for Michael
Massively.
Bloomberg. But the difference there, of course, is that whether we like to admit it or not, unfortunately, Bernie Sanders is not as aggressive as Elizabeth Warren is, and that's very frustrating. As someone who as someone who wants Bernie Sanders to be more aggressive and has complained about this since the beginning, because I also, and this ties into your other point that you made, or I guess I made as well, that if Bernie Sanders is not aggressive and attacking Joe Biden, he is not going to be able to create media moments for himself, and the media narrative is going to be whatever the media can use against Bernie that will take over the airwaves for weeks on end, like the Castro stuff that unfortunately took a big dent. Not a significant dent, but definitely still a significant point in the conversation that will hurt us in Florida. Even though, as you know, Obama said the exact same things about Castro as well. And more importantly, the toxic Bernie bro narrative that is still ongoing. They're still talking about this, and it's a total fabrication.
It is a fabrication, but I doubt that it actually decides a lot of votes. Here's the real deal. 1/3 of voters today in the states that voted today, Michigan, Missouri, so forth, they decided their vote in the last few days of this race. They broke for Joe Biden. Yet, the fact that a third remain undecided at this late juncture is an indication that the national top line numbers are not what they seem. That there are still people who are waiting to hear from the candidates who have not sat up and paid attention yet, as you or I have been paying attention for the past fucking year to this stupid fucking awful process that debases us all and saps our souls. That they want to hear something before they make up their mind. That is the opportunity for Bernie Sanders to change the game. Bernie Sanders lost Michigan by 10 points. Polls showed him losing by 20, 30 points. I'm not going to spin that as a great victory. I am going to say that we're at the half. Bernie is down, but Bernie has a good opportunity right now because he has not actually stood on a stage with Joe Biden yet. That Joe Biden has actually not fucking faced the voters yet. And yes, he's got the establishment support, but this was always a campaign against the Democratic establishment. If Bernie Sanders peels off 1/3 of Joe Biden's support among white, non-college educated voters, that's the demographic that Bernie Sanders won big in 2016. If he peels off 1/3 of white college educated voters, if he peels off 1/4 of African-American voters, in the next series of races, the next 50% of races, he will win the nomination. And that is a fact.
Yeah, but again,
People have
the
not.
uneducated, the white working class, non-college educated workers that went with Bernie, it's increasingly becoming more and more obvious that that was an anti-Hillary vote, and that those people like Biden, even though, and I've said this multiple times even tonight, Joe Biden's policy track record, pound for pound, has been worse for those people than Hillary Clinton's. But
60% of voters, 60+% of voters in every single contest so far, according to exit polls, say they support Medicare for all. They support a Bernie Sanders policy over a Joe Biden policy.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders has an 80% favorability rating among the Democratic electorate. He's not someone who has been rejected. It's a different race from 2016. And I said this to my colleagues earlier tonight, and I'll say it to your audience. I would rather be Bernie Sanders tonight, knowing what the delegate count is right now, than Bernie Sanders in 2016 at the same juncture. Because at the same juncture, Bernie Sanders was toast in 2016. Right now, he is not toast. Because he is up against a candidate who 50% of his support is soft support. Voters have not actually made up their minds about this race, which is why the race will continue.
Yeah,
I have every indication out of Brooklyn that the race will continue, and they will continue on a strategic path to win the nomination.
I think one really telling exit poll that we saw from CNN yesterday, or not, it wasn't an exit poll, sorry. One really telling national poll that CNN did yesterday, I believe, talked about electability and defeating Donald Trump, which obviously is the most important for the Democratic Party's electorate.
Yeah,
with
sure.
Joe Biden leading Bernie Sanders over 30 points. Joe Biden had over 30 points on defeating Donald Trump, which is, by the way, a totally fabricated metric. Electability and possibility of defeating Donald Trump are two complete media fabrications. You have no way of knowing that. Okay?
Sure. Absolutely,
Whereas,
it is. But it nevertheless is obviously determinant in people's voting intentions to say, hey, I like Medicare for all.
yeah, I was going to mention that. I was just about to mention that.
But I nevertheless think it's a crazy time. Let's get a steady hand on the wheel. Let's get a guy who got elected twice nationally.
Yeah. The second metric that I was going to mention, which is also consistent with both the exit polling data that you talked about, and also just across the board, is that voters find themselves agreeing. A majority of voters find themselves agreeing with Bernie Sanders, and that in that metric, Bernie only leads by 8 points. But still, that means that there are more progressive voters overall in the Democratic electorate, or at the very least, even if they wouldn't consider themselves to be progressive, there are voters who agree with Bernie Sanders' policies. Now, the way that the media has created the way that the media has trained like little puppies the Democratic electorate, especially in the primaries, they are more inclined to vote for electability and out of fear of who their opposition is in Donald Trump. But that, to me, is a sign of hope still, especially when paired up with the overwhelming number of exit polls. All of the exit polls thus far showing 50 to 60% favorability for Medicare for all, Bernie's signature plan. So my question to you is, how do we make media moments for Bernie Sanders? I personally think that we need to use the profit motive and the media's thirst for ratings against them in a similar fashion.
Sure.
Not dissimilar fashion to Donald Trump in the primaries at the very least. And, and make Bernie Sanders impossible to avoid. And that is the only way to do that, I think, is to directly attack Joe Biden.
Yes. That's exactly, if anyone here just came from the Majority Report stream, that is what I advocated. And as well, Bernie Sanders understood that. Brooklyn understood that the night of Super Tuesday, that they have to go negative against Joe Biden. And they have to go at the heart of Joe Biden's support, which is that people assume that he is electable. people assume that he would be an okay president. They don't like him. I mean, they like him on a personal level. On a policy level, they don't like him. They don't like the shit that he's saying. But on a personal level, he seems like a nice guy who will win over the Obama to Trump white voters of the Midwest. And it's incumbent on the Bernie campaign to make the argument that that's not the case, that a guy who has said many, many times over the course of his career that I want to cut Social Security and Medicare is going to get destroyed by a Republican president who can say, honestly, I promised I wouldn't cut Medicare or Social Security, and I didn't do it.
Yeah. Well, that's the line of attack from the Trump campaign already. They have said that they're going to run Hillary 2.0 and say that, hey, you had every opportunity. You had the keys to the castle, and yet you didn't make these changes that you claim that you're for now. And here is a treasure trove of old speeches that you delivered that say the exact opposite. Why should these people believe you? Trump is going to run to the left of Joe Biden on criminal justice and say, I pushed for the First Step Act. You locked up black people. Now, that's not going to change the overall makeup. I don't think black people are going to
neutralize. He's going to neutralize the big moral imperative to vote against Trump, which is, of course, what he's doing at the border, what he's doing to refugees and migrants in this country, running a fucking Gestapo force to go into non-white neighborhoods in cities in this country. That will be neutralized when Trump says correctly that putting kids in cages, that was the Obama-Biden policy, as it was.
Yeah.
Biden was the guy that the Obama administration deployed to Central America and said, don't come here. We will put you in fucking cages and send you back.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, now I don't want to. No, hang on. Now, when I say that, of course, I don't want to be too equivocal about these matters, because obviously there are literal white supremacists running Trump's immigration policy. It is profoundly evil policy. But the fact that Bernie Sanders is winning Latino voters by a 2-1 margin is a pretty damn good indication of where the people directly impacted by these migrant policies, where how they feel about Joe Biden.
Yeah,
Asian American voters, the same margin or more or bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. It's devastating that the media refuses to talk about that and still tries to invoke the 2016 era messaging of like Bernie bros are white college educated liberals that are just like, you know, they're spoiled little brats or whatever, when this coalition that Bernie Sanders has been able to create is predominantly made up of Latino men and women, working class Americans. But you know that rarely ever gets coverage. Is there now? This is two white guys talking about this. Two white passing guys talking about this.
I'm not white.
Okay, well, I need
also,
technically.
Also, your name is Hasan, so I assumed you weren't.
Yeah,
white
that's
either,
why I said white passing or whatever. It doesn't matter. My point is.
Oh, I got you're doing irony.
The follow up question was going to be: is there a way to penetrate? I don't know if that's the right word to use. I'm trying to be as sensitive as possible, because a lot of people get mad at me and then try to justify voting for Joe Biden. A lot of black academic friends of mine get upset at me on Twitter when I say stuff about the black vote. But is there any way to like, how can Bernie Sanders change the course on winning over African American voters? Is there any way to take at least some of the African American vote away from Joe Biden? Is it just the same as every other voting demographic, even though black voters
what's interesting when we talk about black voters is right now, and I'm sure that you and your audience appreciate this. This is a race between people under 45 and over 45. I'm sorry to say it. I don't really love that, but it is the case.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders won while he was losing South Carolina by 30 points. He won black voters under 30. The problem is young African American voters do not vote. I mean, the problem replicated across the country is that young voters do not vote. It's not a great harbinger for the general election, no matter who the nominee is. That would be, to me, sounds like cause for concern. If I am Joe Biden and I do want to win the general election, I would think, oh shit, not only are young people not voting, they're not fucking voting for me because I'm losing them 85% to 15% to Bernie Sanders, no matter what race they are.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That will be.
So the question of how does Bernie Sanders win black voters is really more of a question is how do you get black voters to go to the polls? And that's the central question of running any goddamn campaign, isn't it? I don't have a fucking magic bullet for that. I don't have a brilliant answer for it.
Yeah. So you're saying that asset owning boomers are going to go moderate, are going to go Joe Biden, unless that electability or capacity to defeat Donald Trump, unless that veil is removed, and potentially a debate-like scenario where two people are clearly standing side by side, and Bernie makes a more compelling argument that he is more electable, that he can defeat Donald Trump better than Joe Biden can.
I think it's not just making the argument that I can do that. I think it's exposing Joe Biden as a uniquely weak nominee. And of course, it's going to be tricky for Senator Sanders to do that because, for one of the things that sunk Hillary in 2016 was corruption. And in terms of Joe Biden, I don't think Joe Biden is as corrupt as Hillary Clinton, but I think that when Joe Biden's son gets these positions, these board seats for foreign petrochemical companies, simply on the basis of his father's name, I think that's something that you can make political hay over. And I think that's something that President Trump is going to attack Joe Biden over in the general election. But of course, it's a delicate matter right now because that is at the root of why Democrats impeached Donald Trump in that fucking failed fucking idiotic thing. And
Hello?
And so, yeah, hey, I'm here. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. And as well, what I was saying is that Democratic voters don't want to hear that, hey, at the root of the impeachment fucking thing was some real fucking corruption, even if it doesn't have that name. And that is the thing that I think your average person has contempt for. I mean, I have contempt for it, and I'm an extraordinary person.
Yeah.
The idea that if you have a fucking famous name, you get to make millions of dollars doing nothing.
And it's also very Trumpian too, from Joe Biden consistently lying about the Nelson Mandela stuff, lying about getting arrested in the civil rights protests that never happened, that he literally apologized for, but then continued to lie about in this election cycle, to him even telling earlier today the union worker who wants to have sex with guns that the viral videos that he saw of him were fake news. Well, not fake news. He never used those words, but he said that they were wrong, they were false, to the same messaging that you hear from his campaign about him openly stating to Lawrence O'Donnell last night that he was going to veto Medicare for all if it passed the Senate and the House of Representatives. He would still veto it, citing cost. Then he turned around today and his campaign said that's also a lie, that no one should put words in our mouths, or especially not our opposition. He is very similar to Donald Trump, and he's very similar to Donald Trump in the way that he also is a beneficiary. His son is a beneficiary of nepotism, Hunter Biden, even though we do like him.
Yes, he's a cool guy.
He's a cool guy. We like him. He does crack.
But I would not let him know where I keep my crack because he would steal it. Yeah. Which I respect. And if he doesn't know me very well, I mean, even if he did, he would still steal it. I respect that. And I could be too mad about it because it's crack and it's fun to smoke, but I just would not.
Parody
I would be
in a video game. Virgil means in a video game.
Parody. No, I'm talking about a confection and not a drug.
Yeah.
Of course. But we're also talking about political issues here, and an actual thing that the former vice president's son smokes on the reg.
Yeah. And also had sex with his deceased brother's wife.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
I forget all that stuff.
Which is biblical, by the way. I mean, that could really turn things around in Alabama. I think that's with the evangelical vote. That's precisely what the Bible intended you do, is impregnate your sister-in-law, your recently widowed sister-in-law. Anyway, that's true, by the way. Look it up, chat. I'm not kidding. Overall, you're saying that our chances look good. This is just the first half.
I'm not saying that the chances. Hang on.
You're
I'm
not saying that they look good, but there's still reason to hold out hope.
I'm saying right now that it looks bad, and it's not what anyone was anticipating, solely because of what happened before Super Tuesday. But what I'm saying is this is no time to bitch about that. It's no time, especially, and I want to make this perfectly clear. It's no time to complain about Elizabeth Warren or her supporters, because Elizabeth Warren has no support base in the Democratic coalition. It doesn't matter what Elizabeth Warren does. She is a distraction, and anyone out there saying that, oh, well, I was on team Warren, and you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to get my support. You should not even harass that person. You should ignore that person.
Oh yeah,
because I mean, look. It's there's definitely been some amusing fucked up shit from some hardcore Warren types. But right now, if you are actually committed to the idea of a socialist president, you need to be more on the ball than getting distracted by people like that. Because the Warren endorsement does not matter at all.
Yeah,
period.
No, the Elizabeth Warren endorsement was for a media moment.
I could name you 24 fucking endorsers who are more important, who would be fucking better for Bernie right now than Elizabeth Warren.
Halsey today endorsed Bernie Sanders, which I believe is a more significant endorsement than Elizabeth Warren. But the problem is, like, Elizabeth Warren endorsing before Super Tuesday would have been perfect. It actually would have been helpful. Elizabeth Warren endorsing after.
It would have been helpful, but it's not worth thinking about right now. Because if you actually care about this race, it is a fight, and now it is a fucking fight to the death.
Yeah. I'm just saying it was for media.
We're at halftime, and I have studiously avoided openly making fun of all the fucking Elizabeth Warren lunatic nonsense, because it is a waste of time and it is a genuine distraction. Right now, Bernie Sanders needs to win over a third of white non-college graduate voters. That is a base that likes him and voted for him in 2016. He needs to win over a third of college graduate white voters, a base that's a bit more skeptical of him. Yeah, there are some Warren people in that, but they're not listening to Elizabeth Warren. They're looking at the race and wondering who the better candidate would be to beat Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I'm saying these are winnable demographics. This is a fight that can be won because nobody has given more than a fart's thought about Joe Biden. None of his supporters have. None of the people who fucking cast a ballot for Joe Biden have fucking contemplated the issue for more than a few seconds.
There is no broad and enthusiastic base of support for Joe Biden that you see with with Bernie Sanders. That's for sure.
And as well, on the notion of who's more electable, Bernie Sanders can win that argument. And that is, Karl Rove, who for a while was a great political strategist.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
He understood that the way to take your opponent down is to go after the core of their support. And in order to take Joe Biden down, you have to diffuse the argument that he is a sane leader and that he will beat Donald Trump. And Joe Biden is your best ally to do that. The scariest thing to imagine is that they will just cancel all the debates and that Joe Biden won't ever speak ever again. And he will just win the nomination by default.
I mean, they're trying to do that. Clyburn already asked for that.
Of course they're trying to do that. Of course they're trying to do that. But that doesn't mean you have to let them do that. That doesn't mean that if the mainstream media is going to abdicate their responsibility to actually cover a fucking race that's not done, where neither candidate has even 50% of the delegates that you need to win the nomination, where more than 50% of the country has not voted yet, that doesn't mean you have to let them do it. It's still a fucking race. That's the message I want your audience to know.
Yeah.
And as well, again, and I keep hitting this point, a lot of people voted for Joe Biden because they thought, I don't know, he won a few times. He'll probably beat Trump, right? They're not paying attention to, one, his cognitive decline, and two, his manifold vulnerabilities against Trump. The Bernie Sanders campaign still has a donor base of over 1.5 million Americans. Joe Biden's campaign has a donor base of 15 billionaires. They can be tied in terms of the amount of money they can spend, but it doesn't mean that Bernie Sanders is running a shoestring campaign. It doesn't mean that he's hogtied right now. He is still fighting for this nomination, and he has not even had the opportunity to meet Joe Biden head to head, mano a mano, on a debate stage, which it looks like we will get that opportunity tomorrow night. On Thursday night, Joe Biden is also going to give a national address about the coronavirus, and we'll see what a shit show that is.
I don't know. I think they I don't know, they might be pumping him up full of whatever they are to get him to be at least partially coherent. And he's been able to do that. He's like reading teleprompters a little bit better. I mean, the bar is so fucking low, as it always has been.
It's pretty goddamn low, yeah.
No, I know. It's not. And again, the point is, when the bar is that low, for him to barely etch out a victory in the primaries with the entirety of mainstream media advocating for him and attacking his opponent, and by mainstream media, I mean like MSNBC and CNN, the liberal brain rot, that's not going to cut it for general. And I think that's a consistent message that we've talked about here, and it is a genuine fear that I have. I know that people will say, oh, well, Hasan, you said you're Bernie or bust in the past or whatever, so you don't care if Trump wins. But no, of course I want Donald Trump out of the fucking office. And I certainly want Donald, and the only way to do that, is not through Joe Biden. The way to do that is not through, oh, I guess this guy is electable. I don't know. He seems like he could beat Donald Trump.
We'll have slightly fewer white supremacists in the White House.
Yeah.
We'll have white supremacists in the White House, but they won't be in positions of authority, is the Joe Biden promise right now.
Yeah. It's terrifying. I don't know how to get that message across to boomers.
You should be terrified by that notion, because people under 45 are not going to be activated for this campaign if the nominee is not Bernie Sanders. Latinos will not be activated for this campaign. Arab Americans won't be activated for this campaign. And as you know, there's quite a lot of them in Michigan.
Yeah.
The fact is, and once again, this race is not done. We are at halftime right now. And you will only hear this on this Twitch stream, on my podcast, on the Majority Report, on independent media. Because everyone who works in corporate media by and large, is hostile to the idea
Democratic voters
of wealth redistribution, of a Bernie Sanders campaign that might threaten their position in society. And everyone who owns corporate media obviously is hostile to those ideas.
Well, their job
From
is
the beginning of this race, we all knew at some point this moment would come. The only thing that we anticipated that was wrong was that Bernie would be in a stronger position, because we thought he would do better on Super Tuesday, which he almost did. We all knew that this would be the fight. Anyone right now who is bowing out of the fight can go fuck themselves. The fight will continue. We are going on. Next week, we are going to Ohio, Illinois, Arizona, and Florida. And I believe that 3 out of those 4 states are winnable for Bernie Sanders. And I believe that that is where the campaign can and will turn around. But only if everyone fights for it and everyone stays on message, which is to not worry about Elizabeth Warren, not worry about MSNBC, not worry about the fucking bullshit hand that you've gotten dealt, because we all knew that the fucking deck is rigged. But that everyone comes with the exact same message. Joe Biden, who in his entire career wants to cut Social Security and Medicare, will lose to Donald Trump for that reason. That's the message.
And the
That's
Iraq
the
War.
simplest distillation of the message.
Yeah. Again, yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. I'll be honest. I think the only way that we make waves in the upcoming races in Illinois and Arizona, I believe Florida is a lost cause for the most part. Maybe you have a different opinion. You said 3 out of 4.
I think 3 out of 4. I think Florida is a lost cause, but honestly, you look at where how Michael Bloomberg's poll numbers were impacted by a single debate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's by the margin that Bernie Sanders needs to move Joe Biden's poll numbers, and he can move them. But it requires everyone to stay on message. Because I'm really sickened by the number of people that I consider to be friends and allies who in the past week, instead of girding themselves for this fight, instead of making calls and texts for Bernie Sanders, instead of canvassing for Bernie Sanders, have spent their time engaged in recriminations. I think those are fake friends who are not committed to this project. And I would hope that the people listening to this, people watching this stream, are committed to this project, because it is the only chance that we have to forestall a catastrophe, the climate catastrophe that looms. But also, right now, maybe it's instructive that a pandemic will show you what a capitalist healthcare system does. What a system where people don't have paid leave for being sick. That there's absolutely no way to stop a situation where 100 million Americans are diagnosed with the COVID-19 virus simply because most people in this country go to work when they're sick because they can't afford not to.
Yeah, I mean, that's
simply
the point
because
that Bernie has to stress, though.
We don't have a socialized healthcare system.
Yeah, that's the point that Bernie has to stress, though. And I'm sorry, as someone who is a diehard Bernie Sanders fan, supporter, urging everyone to go and smile and dial as best as possible and knock on doors. I don't know why the Bernie Sanders campaign, or at least Bernie Sanders himself, has not been as aggressive in hammering those points of view when talking about the coronavirus. It's supposed to be a wrap. It's the easiest talking point to push for at a time when there's a global pandemic and all these other countries are doing a better job than we are. And that's not just because Donald Trump is a buffoon. That certainly plays a significant role there. But
Sure.
another part of that is the structural inefficiencies that the American healthcare system has, that other countries don't have to deal with. So even if we had Democratic leadership in this circumstance, we probably would still have a hard time because we don't have socialized medicine and paid leave.
I assure you that the messages I've read from the Bernie Sanders campaign are speaking about those exact same things. The problem is those messages aren't getting out there. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to get those messages out there. Whether that means calling your boomer fucking parents and saying, hey, so this might be the last time we talk because you'll probably die because of the imbecile fucking president and our shitty fucking capitalist healthcare system. But before you do, please vote for Bernie Sanders. He was the one guy who would have stopped this.
Yeah. And save your Social Security and fight for it.
I give absolutely no blame right now to the Bernie Sanders campaign because I think they've made every correct move in a rigged game. And I think they will continue to make the right moves. But it is up to every them.
Hello?
They end up. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you again. You got cut off a little bit. What's up? Say that last
Oh,
part
yeah.
again?
Yeah. I don't assign any blame to Bernie Sanders or his campaign because I think they've made the right moves. I think a campaign that wins Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada, the first 3 out of 3, has made the right moves. I think that they have been met with a pushback against by the establishment that is so ferocious that it's caught everyone by surprise. And anyone who is committed to making Bernie Sanders president, anyone who's committed to the socialist project in this country, anyone who's committed to not dying of COVID-19 needs to get behind the campaign and redouble their efforts. Now is the time.
Agreed. Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty good. I think you rallied the troops well.
I made my case. Yeah,
I think
good. I
you've
like a
done
bunch of numbers there,
good.
and like the numbers good. I like.
Yeah.
Good numbers. Yeah.
Right now, by the way, not to spoil your night, but Idaho is showing with 34% reporting. Idaho is showing 46.4 for Joe Biden and only 40% for Bernie Sanders. That's a 6-point difference there, but I thought Idaho
little tight. I'm seeing Washington with 68% in, 32.7 for Biden, 30% for Sanders. It's tight. Look, I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. It's a bad night for Bernie Sanders, but it's halftime. For Bernie Sanders to win this nomination, he has to win the next 50% of states by the margin that Joe Biden won overall in the last 50% of states. That's doable. But only if people meet Joe Biden. Only if Joe Biden is a guy who's a fucking I'm trying to put this in a polite way, a glad handling, downing, incompetent ward healer. I think that's polite.
Yeah, the problem is that they're hiding
Donald Trump.
They're hiding him. They've been hiding him.
Well, if there's going to be a debate, which I believe there will, and then we should raise holy hell if there won't be a debate, I think that Joe Biden will show himself to the public, and I think that will be determinant. And if it comes down to Bernie Sanders debating Joe Biden and losing that debate, well, then that's how we lost. It's up to Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders is a guy who's pulled it out many, many times before. in his entire political career because he's got good political instincts. And the only thing that any of us can, of course, we can sit around and we can debate whether their strategy was right. The only thing we can do right now is support the campaign. And that's what we need to do. Something that Amber said to me, my colleague Amber Frost, I think she said it on an episode. Maybe she said it to me when we were high. I can't really remember. Was that being a socialist means losing. Often it means losing your head, like a lot of socialists have done throughout history. But if you're really committed to a fight, even when you're losing, even when you lose, you wake up and the next day you go back into the fight because that's all you know how to do. Like a fish knows how to swim, you know how to fight because you're committed to a better world. I think that's something that gives me solace right now. It's not a good situation. Bernie is not favored to win the nomination. But quite a lot is happening right now. The stock market is crashing. There's the pandemic. And Joe Biden seems to be getting more senile by the hour. There's still a fight. And if you would rather spend your time criticizing other people on the left or harassing Elizabeth Warren, as shitty as she is, then pushing the message that Joe Biden is a fucking threat to all of us, that he would lose to Donald Trump, then I think you're not committed.
The upside of all of this is that Joe Biden is a weak candidate, and Donald Trump has galvanized the Democratic base in a way that we haven't seen before. And Joe Biden is the perfect person to have a one-to-one matchup against, especially when, unlike in 2016, Bernie Sanders has 1.5 million individual donors, as you mentioned already, and ground game and ground operations in all of these states. He has networks that will have him on and talk about his issues, and people are paying attention to him. They're forced to pay attention to him like a blackout, unlike the blackout in 2016 until it was far too late. So,
Hasan, I think Joe Biden. I think Bernie.
Hello.
Hey, Hasan, can you hear me?
Yeah, you think Joe Biden what?
I think Bernie Sanders should go on your Twitch stream.
That'd be great.
I absolutely think so. You got a big audience, and they're pretty fired up, and they need to hear the message straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, doubt that'll happen anytime soon. I don't think that that's gonna happen ever, but it's fine.
I wouldn't be so sure.
All right, well, we'll see. Anyway.
Right. Listen, Hasan, it's been a pleasure talking to you and your audience. I've got to head out. Zach, I will be on in a little bit. If I could do a plug right now.
Yeah, go ahead. Do your plug, man. Of course.
Team FYM, twitch.tv/
No, Chapo
Chapo
FYM.
Trap House. What?
No, Chapo FYM, isn't it?
Chapo FYM. Yeah, Chapo FYM. Wait, no, it's Team FYM. All right.
Well, you know better.
I'm way late on this. I'm about to go on. Go to twitch.tv/ Chapo Trap House, but don't do it if you're watching Hasan's stream. Try to go on another device and play both of them at the same time. It will produce a beautiful cacophony that will make you even more insane.
Yeah.
Check it out. I will be on there in, I don't know, like 10 minutes, something like that.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Virgil, and rallying up the troops and giving.
It's a pleasure, and also thank you for everything that you've been doing, and thank you for coming out to Nevada and canvassing for Bernie Sanders and helping with his big fucking victory out there and helping in California as well.
Yeah.
West Coast is putting East Coast to shame right now, and we're going to repay the favor as the race goes into April when Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Maryland, and Rhode Island vote. and we will be winning then.
Yeah, let's see the East Coast represent a little bit. New York's going to be very difficult, but I have faith.
Feel free to come by if planes are still functioning by then.
All right, we'll do.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, peace, brother.